Good afternoon, everybody. This is Elisa with another Gosho reading for you today. Today is March 2nd, and if you're watching this anytime close to March 2nd, you're aware that there's a terrible invasion happening in Ukraine. So I have put the sunflower up in solidarity with the people trying to save their own nation. And of course, because all of us who study the Gosho and practice Nichiren Daishonen's teachings pray for peace in the world and are trying to achieve it in our own communities. I wish you all great success in that effort. So I have been skipping along in the Gosho, and I want to return to the original plan, which was to work through the major writings of Nichiren Daishonin, starting with Volume 1. As I've mentioned before, currently in English we have a 2-volume set of the writings of Nichiren Daishonin, but before we had that more complete compilation, which has some shifts in the way it translates or represents Japanese names and such in the new version. We had volumes 1 through 7 or 8 of the major writings of Nichiren Daishonin. So the next one, after A Ship to Cross the Sea of Suffering in this book, was called The Persecution at Tatsunokuchi. It was written to Shijo Kingo, September 21st, 1271. Tatsunokuchi is a place actually in Kamakura. I've been to that general area, although the beach is not at the same place, so we're not entirely sure where that exact site was. But it was an execution site at that time. And this was the first extant Gosho, the first Gosho that still exists, that was written after that persecution. Nichiren writes, I cannot adequately express my gratitude for your frequent letters. At the time of my persecution on the 12th of last month, you not only accompanied me to Tatsunokuchi, but declared that you would die by my side. I was deeply moved. How many are the places where I died in past existences for the sake of my family, lands, and kin? I have given up my life on mountains, seas, and rivers, on the seashore and by the roadside, but never once did I die for the Lotus Sutra, or suffer persecution for the Daimoku, which is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Hence, none of the ends I met enabled me to reach enlightenment. Because I did not attain Buddhahood, the seas and rivers where I died are not the Buddha land. In this lifetime, however, as the votary of the Lotus Sutra, I was exiled and almost put to death, exiled to Ito and nearly beheaded at Tatsunokuchi. Tatsunokuchi in Sagami Province is the place where Nichiren gave his life. Because he died there for the Lotus Sutra, how could it be anything less than the Buddha land? A passage from the sutra reads, this is the Lotus Sutra, quote, in all the Buddha lands of the universe there is but one supreme vehicle, unquote. Doesn't this bear out my assertion? The one supreme vehicle is the Lotus Sutra. There is no teaching other than the Lotus Sutra in any of the Buddha lands throughout the universe. The Buddha's provisional teachings are excluded, as the sutra explains elsewhere. This being so, then every place where Nichiren meets persecution is the Buddha land. Of all the places in this world, it is at Tatsunokuchi in Katase of Sagami Province where Nichiren's life dwells. Because he gave his life there for the sake of the Lotus Sutra, Tatsunokuchi may well be called the Buddha land. This principle is found in the Jinriki chapter, where it states, quote, "Whether in a grove, in a garden, or on a mountain, in a valley, or in a broad field, the Buddhas enter nirvana." You accompanied Nichiren, vowing to give your life as a votary of the Lotus Sutra. Your deed is infinitely greater than that of Hong Yen, who tore open his stomach and inserted the liver of his dead lord, Duke Yi, to save him from shame and dishonor. And the footnote explains Hong Yen was a loyal retainer in ancient China whose lord, Duke Yi, was slain in battle. Hong Yen sacrificed his own life to prevent the desecration of his lord's body. To the Chinese, the liver was the source of vitality. And Nichiren continues, "When I reach Eagle Peak, I will first tell how Shijo Kingo, like Nichiren, resolved to die for the Lotus Sutra. Secretly, I learned that I am to be exiled to Sado by order of Regent Hojo. Of the three heavenly gods, the god of the moon saved my life at Tatsunokuchi by appearing as a shining object, and the god of the stars descended 4 or 5 days ago to greet me." And the note explains that on the night of September 13, while the Daishonin was confined at Homa Rakuzozaimon's residence in Echi, a luminous object fell from the sky and hung suspended before him in the branches of a plum tree. In scientific terms, this seems to have been a phenomenon caused by atmospheric discharge. Maybe something like a lightning ball, I don't know. But Nichiren writes about this as well in another Gosho in this book called On the Buddha's Behavior, where he wrote, quote, "Then, as though in answer, a large star, bright as the morning star, fell from the sky and struck a branch in the plum tree in front of me. The soldiers, astounded, jumped down from the veranda, fell on their faces in the garden, or ran behind the house. Immediately a fierce wind started up, raging so violently that the whole island of Enoshima seemed to roar. The sky shook, echoing with a sound like pounding drums." End quote. So, returning to the Gosho persecutions at Tatsunokuchi. We continue. Let's see. Yeah, so he wrote that the god of the stars descended 4 or 5 days ago to greet me. Now only the god of the sun remains, and he is certain to protect me. How reassuring! The Hoshi chapter states, quote, "The Buddha will send gods in various guises to protect the votary of the Lotus Sutra." Unquote. This passage leaves no room for doubt. The Anrakugyo chapter reads, quote, "Neither swords nor staves will harm him." Unquote. The Fumon chapter states, quote, "The sword will instantly be broken into pieces." Unquote. There is nothing false in these quotations. Strong and steadfast faith is the vital thing. One more time. Strong and steadfast faith is the vital thing. With my deepest respects, Nichiren. The 21st day of the 9th month in the 8th year of Bunei, 1271. So I'll read the background provided here. On September 21, 1271, only 9 days after the Tatsunokuchi persecution, Nichiren Daishonin wrote this letter to Shijo Kingo, who had accompanied him to the execution site, prepared to die alongside his master. The Daishonin was 50 at the time and was being detained at Homa Rokuzoraimon's residence in Echi, north of Tatsunokuchi, while the government pondered what action to take regarding him. This was the first extant letter he wrote following the persecution. The Daishonin expresses his profound admiration of Shijo Kingo, who vowed to die a martyr's death beside his master. To his most faithful disciple, the Daishonin reveals something about his true identity, which he later described in The Opening of the Eyes, also given to Shijo Kingo. Here he states, quote, Tatsunokuchi in Sagami province is the place where Nichiren gave his life because he died there for the Lotus Sutra. How could it be... sorry. Let me do that again. Tatsunokuchi in Sagami province is the place where Nichiren gave his life. Because he died there for the Lotus Sutra, how could it be anything less than the Buddha land? Unquote. Why is it that the Daishonin states he died, when in fact he survived the attempted execution? The Opening of the Eyes gives further details when it says, quote, a person named Nichiren was beheaded in the middle of the night on the 12th day of the 9th month last year, 1271, but his soul reached Sado Island, unquote. This certainly does not mean that his soul departed from his body at the moment of death. The Daishonin implies that the common mortal called Nichiren died at Tatsunokuchi, but that the original Buddha Nichiren reached Sado Island in order to fulfill his mission. The persecution at Tatsunokuchi, this Gosho, states that the Buddha land is not a specific location where everyone dwells in a blissful state of heightened understanding. According to the principle that the individual and his environment are inseparable, anywhere one dedicates his life to upholding the supreme law of Buddhism is the Buddha land. Here it may seem that the believer is being urged to die for the Lotus Sutra, but that is not the intention. As he states, quote, every place where Nichiren meets persecution is the Buddha land, unquote. Overcoming difficulties through Buddhist practice develops an individual's Buddha nature. We can safely say that dedicating one's life to the Gohonzon means devoting his time, or her time, and effort to worshipping the Gohonzon, studying the Daishonin's teachings, and encouraging the faith of others. The Daishonin states that Shijo Kingo, because of his devoted actions, has already created the causes that will lead to enlightenment. This is implied by the statement that the Daishonin will report Kingo's dedication when he reaches Eagle Peak. Finally, this Gosho explains that the Buddhist gods will surely protect those who seriously carry out the practice of Buddhism. Nichiren Daishonin expresses his joy and confidence in this certain knowledge. I really like that second to last sentence, explaining that we get protection from our practice when we seriously carry out the practice of Buddhism, not as some frivolous, self-serving, wish-granting tool, but really aware of the power of this incredible practice and the mission we have as Buddhists in this crazy age of Mappo today. I hope you have enjoyed this Gosho, and if so, you can give me a thumbs up and subscribe to see the other videos and be notified when a new one is released. And please feel free to share these with anyone else you think might benefit from being able to listen to the Goshos. Thank you, and please send your prayers and daimoku to Ukraine and to all the suffering people, as I will myself. Thank you.